we are presenting a discussion about maximizing profits for OTT channels. We're excited to welcome moderator Matthew Singerman, president of KFA Consulting, with panelists Jonathon Barbato, co-CEO of Best Ever Channels, David Chu, EVP and GM at Cinedigm, Patrick Courtney, SVP and Head of Digital at Fuse Media, and Rahman Dukes, CEO at Polaris. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, it's great to be here with all you guys, and excited to just jump right into it, if you don't mind. So I'd like to lead off. I think, look, we all have victories. We all like to tout our victories. So let's tout off with a victory. David, tell me the best thing you have done to maximize profits for your FAST channel.
For the FAST channels, I think it's important because it's very competitive. And when you speak to the programmers at the FAST platforms, they're under immense pressure to get a lot of cable networks on board. So if you're an independent publisher, you have your work cut out for you in terms of time spent and getting that audience share. And it's a discovery issue because your average FAST platform has 200 channels. It's actually not that easy to just, scroll through 200 channels. You'll probably have your go-to channels, and it's very much the pay TV environment has come to the OTT environment in the form of FAST and lean back. So it's important to ensure that you're doing the correct type of marketing within those FAST platforms. And by that, I mean, there's different types of marketing products, but on the key FAST platforms that you may have your channel on, it's important to do that in-platform marketing and ensure that your channel is discovered, because the ROI is strong. And those are our wins, where on our key platforms, we constantly market to our audience, and we don't rest on our laurels. We're competing against cable networks, and we try and do our best there.
Great. Thank you for that. How about you, Jonathon? What do you think is the biggest thing you've done and biggest victory you've had in terms of maximizing your profits for Best Ever?
Well, we've managed to partner with a couple of incredible partners for the future. We have the Stand in New York, the largest comedy venue in the country, partnered for Wits, our comedy channel. We have Spin Magazine partnered with us. I think it's all about finding opportunity, creating events. And one of the successes we've had is we took a library product we had called Pensacola Wings of Gold, which was, Baywatch.
Classic show.
Yeah, it's a great show. It was made, in the early 90s from Top Gun success. Basically took that script and found some actors and got 3 seasons out of it. And so we took that because we knew Top Gun was coming out last summer, and we launched it with the platforms. We even launched it on some platforms that hadn't launched our channels yet as AVOD content, and all around the board rose to the top. Audiences found it, binged on it, became a great financial success for us.
That's amazing. It's interesting. So far I've heard marketing, big victory, programming, big victory. Rahman, what about you? And did I pronounce your name right, most importantly? I guess I think Rahman might not be here, so we'll let him answer it later if he joins. But how about you, Patrick? You anchor us on this one.
I mean, I would agree with David and Jonathon for sure. The programming, the marketing are key. I think having a quality product that can stand the level of competition in the space now. The channels now that these streamers have expanded, and now a lot of them are looking to contract. It's about quality and being able to maintain a quality product. And we're happy that we've got the channels that we do across the number of platforms that we have. That's really important. I'd say as far as profits though, not to get like technical, but our fill rates on our advertising are extremely high. And that's key for maximizing profits. Our fill rates have exceeded 95% in some months, which is kind of unheard of in digital media. So that's definitely a big win.
Well, I have to follow up. Give me 30 seconds. So how have you been so successful in the fill rate?
Well, so Fuse is a traditional cable network. We have a linear sales team, and we have seen a lot of our linear sales seeing demand into connected TV. So it's been really great for us to be able to take some of that, all of that experience that we have in traditional linear cable and apply that to connected TV. So we have a really strong direct sales business. And then over the last couple of years, we've built a mature programmatic stack to kind of support that direct sales business. So between those two things, we've really been able to maximize the ad inventory that we have across our channels.
Great, that makes sense. Jonathon, listen, we talked about the victories, but with victory comes failure. Tell us about something in terms of trying to make profits that you did wrong, and then how you fixed it.
I'll segue off of that direct sale. So one of the mistakes, I don't know if it was a mistake, but what we haven't done yet is we haven't created a direct sales team. And I think with niche channels like ours, especially with the original content that we have and we're producing, not having a niche, direct sales team is a mistake. But we're correcting it. We're going to make an announcement next week that will blow everyone's socks off in that regard. So learn from your mistakes.
So you've relied on programmatic so far, or letting the platform?
We have so far. It's been good. I mean, it's especially with the events like the one I was talking about and other things. We've been, holding our own. But I think there's also opportunity for expanding that with sponsorships, with tie-ins, brand integrations, and that's what we're exploring now.
Yeah, no, perfect. And David, how about you? I mean, look, you have 175 channels going, so there's room to make a mistake once in a while. So tell me about that.
And this goes back to my point about resting on your laurels, because FAST has been good to us for over 3 years. Cinedigm had jumped early into FAST, and also digital media rights that we were acquired by Cinedigm. And we rested on our laurels where right away, FAST revenue started competing with our direct consumer revenue that we had for years. And we thought, we're doing so well, we're just going to rest on our laurels. And unfortunately, and I'm sure many publishers have experienced this, on certain key platforms, you might have a channel get taken down. And that's what happened. And you hear that story across other publishers where you think you're doing well, and you probably are, but so are your competitors on the FAST platform. So it's really important not to rest on your laurels and to make sure you're minding the store, refreshing content, doing the marketing, and really paying attention.
And a quick follow-up, do you feel the platform gave you warning and you guys just didn't react, or it was more of a surprise to you guys?
Most platforms don't typically give you too much advance notice, and
You're down, you're out.
And like I said, they're under pressure too, for sure.
Sure.
I mean, we've heard it from their teams where there's pressure for them to keep onboarding new channels and get rid of the ones that are underperforming.
That makes sense. It makes sense. Well, Patrick, how about you? I mean, what's the big mistake? How you corrected it? What you learned from it?
The content is a big deal, for sure, to David's point about the survival of the fittest in the FAST space. And so you want to make sure that you're putting up the best content that you can, and FAST just eats content. And so you make a lot of content bets, and some of them don't pan out. So you can end up, paying for content that maybe doesn't work as well as you thought it might. And especially in a space that's rapidly evolving, you're trying to figure out what content is reliable in terms of its performance. So there's definitely been some content things that we've done that's been hit or miss. That's all part of experimentation. And then I think the other is this race for ubiquity. Like, because it's FAST, because it's ad supported, you say you got to be everywhere, right? You got to be on every single platform. But after a while, you get to this smaller and smaller platforms, you end up upside down in your economics as far as the cost to distribute that channel versus actually how much you're making. And if you do that too many times, you start to actually have a little bit of a sinkhole effect on, on that business. So you got to start to be a little bit careful. Once you're in a good enough position that you have quality product that people want it, you can start to be a little more selective about where you distribute it, or at least what that partnership looks like, so that you're de-risked in terms of the costs to deliver that channel.
Got it. We're gonna come. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I
David.
would add to, as we're talking about fast and the topic is maximizing profits. It's really important because it's a 24/7 linear scheduled channel. And you can't, I was a program scheduler 20 years ago with Showtime. You can't take your scheduling tactics from cable and apply them to fast. In some instances you can, but ultimately, your average customer coming into fast, let's say you have a serial. You can't schedule one episode every Friday or every Monday, because the likelihood is they're not paying attention. This is not the 1980s. This is not the 1990s, right? And so you have to really look at your scheduling tactics and see whether or not you need to strip stack, you need to marathon. Those are really important areas to focus on in terms of how you schedule your fast channel.
By the way, David, I have to disagree with one thing. It may not be the 80s or 90s, but there's a hell of a lot of shows from the 80s and 90s on fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a child of the 80s.
There you go. There you go. Let me change the topic, because I think it's kind of touching what where we're at. But look, obviously, ad sales is a key, and I'm just wondering, how do you guys look at it? Like, Jonathon, are you splitting inventory? Are you giving the platform all the inventory to sell? Are you selling on your own? I know you touched on it a little bit later, but like, what are you doing now? And how do you want to change it up? Or do you just want to be in the waterfall? There's so many options out there now. I'm just curious how you look at it, what you think is best.
Yeah, I think that, and because there are so many options, I think you have to look at every option in its own, ecosystem. So in some cases, it makes sense to split inventory. Let us do the selling here. We're gonna do better at that. And in other cases, maybe it's exchange, or maybe it's a rev share. It just depends on the platform. It depends on how much they're getting behind the content. My partner Barry and I believe it's Fast 2.0 coming up, meaning we are finding economical ways or economically feasible ways to create original content. And in that case, if we're creating original content, we're going to want to sell that inventory ourselves, because we're going to be able to do brand integrations. Or, some of the platforms want us to create original content for them. And in that case, then it's a collaboration. With Spin Magazine, for example, we're having discussions with brands and a sales partner where it's going to make sense to integrate all of that together. So it just depends.
Patrick, what about, I know you have your own sales team, right? Are they selling everything, or you let the platform sell a bunch and you're taking the remnants, or your inventory? How are you guys doing it and looking at it? Or is there you partnered with your linear channel in this? How do you do it? I mean, not your linear, but your traditional channel, I should say, cable channel. Go ahead.
So yeah, we definitely prefer inventory share. Early on, it was pretty much all rev shares, and that's because it was like whoever can sell it should sell it, right? But now, like, anybody can. I mean, like, it's the demand is there, the revenue is there, and so we have no problem filling the inventory. So we prefer to have 100% of whatever we're going to sell. So we prefer those inventory shares. Just from an accounting standpoint too, it's easier if it's $1 in and that dollar is yours, however you decide to use that internally, versus $1 that then has to get cut and shared with another platform, right? And you do that both ways. It starts to get complicated from an accounting standpoint. So we like the inventory share, but we have the benefit of having the linear sales, a mature programmatic stack, so that we can fill that inventory. So it depends on the circumstance. If you don't have those things, these platforms, Roku is touting their multi-billion-dollar upfront. They've got plenty of demand that they can fill for your channel for. So it's kind of up to the relationship that you have with the platforms and what you're capable of doing.
But Matt, if I may, let me add something which I think is it's notable for people getting into the space, which is, I launched on-demand networks in the mid 2000s, and the disadvantage then that we have an advantage with now is we were selling, if we had 1 million impressions, we had to sell 1 million impressions, and that was that. Whereas, I can have 1 million impressions on one of my 7 channels now and not directly sell it because nobody wants to buy 1 million impressions. They want 100 million impressions. But I know that if I'm doing a rev share, Plex or Roku or someone else can sell those 100 million, of which my million are in. So it's easier now than it was, say, 10, 20 years ago to monetize from the standpoint of when you don't have the massive inventory, you can still sell the inventory you have through exchange, through these, platform deals.
Got it. And David, look, you have a massive amount of channels. So how do you, what's your strategy when it comes to ad sales?
Early on, we built out an ad sales and ad ops team. And I think that was really important because you want to own your own inventory. And when you speak with the demand partners, SSPs, DSPs, brands, and agencies, the more inventory you have, or what they like to refer to as, the fuller your pipes, the more demand they're going to throw your way. So whenever we have an opportunity, we certainly fight for it in our negotiations to get our share of inventory to sell. We do that because it's only going to increase our chances of getting more demand our way. What we've also done several years ago is create an advertising marketplace, because we understood as an independent publisher in OTT that there are many other publishers that didn't have ad sales or ad ops set up internally. And so what we've done is we've partnered with a number of publishers, and we partner with them to fill their ad inventory. So that's key for us, always wanting to own and sell our own inventory.
But you'll still do deals with platforms if they're not willing to do that, if they're a lucrative enough platform, I assume.
Absolutely. But we have such solid ad sales teams, even with the major platforms. What we're trying to do is even be their demand partner, because we have some great demand.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's switch to marketing for a second, and we touched on that earlier too. But look, I think marketing is an underrated tool used by many channels once they get on a platform that they're like, I'm on, great, now let's make money. But I think marketing is such a huge part of maximizing your profits and maximizing your revenue. Patrick, what do you think? What do you guys do on the marketing front that makes a difference for you in making profits?
Yeah, I mean, second to placement in the guide, like it's the most important thing, the on platform marketing. So we have a team that works with our counterparts on the streaming platform side to go over any marketing opportunities. They typically have an editorial calendar that they share with us. We have an editorial calendar because we also program the linear network. And so we'll have our own editorial calendar for that, plus our fast channels that we'll share with them. And sometimes we have things where we've got great stuff that fits their calendar. And sometimes, they like what we're doing. Like, for example, our Future History series, which highlights diversity of programming across different underrepresented communities in their entertainment space. So like we'll do Future Black History, Future Asia Pacific History, Future Middle Eastern History, and we have a lot of programming around that. The streaming platforms are looking to bring more diversity to the programming, so they take some of what we're doing and apply it to their platform. So it's definitely a conversation. It's definitely a relationship to however you can best market those platforms. And then I would say originals, exclusives, anything that is like only on this thing are huge. Like platforms love that. You see them doing more original programming, investing in that as a means of marketing. And so we're looking at that one from a content acquisition standpoint. Even our own thoughts and what we're considering as far as originals is how can we use that to better market our channels.
And you try to go, look, I'm not going to put you on the spot, which platform, but do you say there's certain platforms that really we cooperate with and are great, so you focus on those versus everybody?
Yeah, I would say there's probably a little bit of that, right? Like there's a little bit of if some of the bigger platforms like some of the ideas that we're doing, then that's what we'll spread across the rest of the channels that we have, and we'll make that a focus, a tent pole for us. So there's a little bit of that for sure, but we also,
Right.
we work individually with every platform.
David, what about you? What are the keys to marketing your channels, and how do you look at that?
Or it really depends on what your business model is. Some people direct to consumer, some people third-party SVOD, third-party FAST. And I think if you're in any one of those areas or all of those areas, you really have to look at and allocate your marketing budget accordingly to all three if possible, right? Direct to consumer, third-party SVOD, third-party FAST. Roku as a device is still the #1 direct to consumer app storefront. And this year, you go to the movies and TV section. If you're not within, let's say, the top 500, they're culling apps from the platform. So the last thing you want to do is get on, build your app, get on, and really, if you don't do any marketing, you're not going to be discovered. And it's important to stay high up in terms of your placement of your channel ranking, which is based on time spent, so that you climb up that ranking ladder, because you really want to be in the top 150 on really the top 125, but it is competitive on Roku. So I think those are the areas. The other things we do is social media. We have a 20 million plus strong social media following across Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. We're trying to build up TikTok. So when you have 20 million followers and subscribers, it's a great way to market your brand and market your channels.
Great, good points. Thank you. Jonathan, what about you? Marketing. Talk to me.
Oh, my favorite
Talk
question.
to me.
I spent 12 years before launching Best Ever Channels as a digital marketing agency, sending audience to Pluto and to Tubi and a bunch of others. And what I found is it's always easier when the audience does the marketing for you. So I focus on the audience. I focus on finding those super influencers within the audience and getting them to feel like they own the channel as well. One example of that is with More You, our health, wealth, and wisdom channel. I've got thought leaders like Les Brown or Jack Canfield, and we got them to use their very large email lists to promote our network on multiple platforms. And then I went to the platforms and said, hey, they're sending to their 5-10 million people. Will you send to yours? And we created this entire collaboration that ultimately served the audience, while also served the platform, while also served my content suppliers. It was, a beautiful day. We were able to increase the viewership and the view time a little bit. So so that was great. So I try to find those things that are outside of the typical affiliate marketing box, only because we do all that as well, but so is everyone else. And I want to stand out. I want to get those calls taken by the marketing departments at the
And speaking of standing out, Jonathan, I mean, you're obviously your channels are new, right? You're of everyone here. You're kind of the new player in the game. What are the challenges when you're the new player and trying to get on platforms and make profit? What's the biggest challenge being a new player?
Yeah, it's the what everyone else has been done, right? So if we have content that isn't differentiated, it's not so interesting to the platforms. If we have content that isn't necessarily going to be in the top 10, 20, 30, not interesting. So we've had to go out of the box. We've had to create original content with the Comedy Channel, and with Spin, we're making an announcement very soon about a show that will be across multiple platforms that will be original, and find creative ways to integrate the platforms, integrate the advertisers, make it interesting for everybody. But ultimately, that's going to put us above the rest as well. Look at when I work with online marketers like Brandon Burchard or Jack Canfield in the health, wealth, and wisdom space. They have customer relationship marketing down pat. That's all they've had to work with. So taking what they've learned and applying it to TV, where it's only been 5 years, maybe 6 or 7 years that we've been able to talk to an audience directly. We had to go through cable operators. We had to go through, broadcast, which was a one-way signal. So it's really, it's finding ways to create that conversation with the audience that I think makes the difference.
Got it. And David, look, you have an interesting channel. I mean, how many channels are you guys have right now?
We have 30, but half of those are managed, third-party managed channels. And in terms of owned and operated, we have 14 channels.
You have 14 channels, right? That's a lot of channels. Is it spend as much time on every channel, or is it pick and choose, like, where are we really going to maximize our profits? Who do we have to really lean into? I mean, how do you balance that?
I think that's a great question. One, we have a fantastic team. We have a fantastic team of channel managers and programmers who are experts in those content verticals. They also work in social media, so they really know how to build that fandom and speak to and build communities. You know, at the end of the day, unlike your children, you can't, you know, you have to pick and choose, and you can't allocate your budget, whether it's a content budget or whether the marketing budget, equally across all 14 channels. You're gonna pick your winners and allocate a greater part of your budget towards that. And so we do that on the content, on the marketing side. But certainly our team is highly dedicated to growing and scaling each of our channels.
Honestly, I have a favorite child, but I don't tell them. So don't worry about it. Patrick, you interesting. You guys are a little different. You have a traditional cable channel. So how is there a part of that that really helps you and a part of it that hurts you in what you're doing, out of curiosity?
Yeah, it's certainly helped us. You know, as FAST has matured, it looks more and more like traditional cable, and our content strategy team has had to sort of relearn how to schedule based on what some of the other comments were about how FAST is a little bit of different behaviors. But then also as FAST matures, they start to adopt a lot of the tactics around like marketing and merchandising the channels and stunts and programming techniques and things like that that look a lot like traditional cable, and they see that and they go, oh, I know this, and then we can really lean into that. So all in all, I mean, it's been really advantageous for us to have that linear experience, both on that side of the business as well as, like we talked about, the advertising side. So we're really taking kind of that approach and seeing as FAST evolves and becomes more and more mature, just how closely does it start to align with the traditional cable business. So internally, we've had to kind of like, you know, train ourselves or rewire ourselves to think like in two different aspects of this on the linear sales, and because we're not hiring like two totally different teams. These are people who are doing the same, you know, the same thing. So there's a lot of things to learn from each side of those businesses that we're applying either way, which it's been really interesting and a learning experience for a lot of us here.
You just said something really interesting. You said, you know, how FAST is evolving so quickly. So what to you is the most important trend going on in FAST right now that you really need to ride and keep on top of so you continue to grow and you maximize your profits?
Known brands, right? Like flight to quality, known brands. Like that's definitely something that the platforms are asking for. And it's been something that, you know, has been the case in cable, is like you want to be known on the dial so that people will go to you, and those platforms are looking for those because in part they want to look like cable, but in part because they know that that's just how people, as they mature and more people come online looking for things on FAST, they want to see these recognizable brands, either as branded the brands of the channels themselves or the IP, the property, the programming. So this flight to quality seems like a big trend, and we're leaning into that. That's we have, you know, we're like Shades of Black, our Black entertainment channel, leaning into our partnership with like Lionsgate to make sure that we've got really high quality movies, and we've got a lot of films and things like that from other partners. So we're kind of focused in that direction now, which previously it was kind of kitchen sink, like everything you can get, just put it in there and see, just to see what works. And now there's a little bit more, again, to the maturation of the space. There's this kind of move towards more quality, higher quality stuff that people know.
Great. Rahman, great to see you here. Let me ask you, what do you see as kind of the big trend that you're trying to ride in FAST to, you know, be successful with your channel and channels and you know, and maximize profits?
Hey, great to meet and see everybody. Apologies for the lateness, a little technical difficulties.
No worries.
You know, I've been a I've been within the media business for about 3 decades plus, a little bit. I started working at a television company back around like 97, 98. I was an intern actually at Viacom. And, I point those things out because during that time, that was a period where you had a major television company, like music is probably one of the biggest music television companies, linear. And at that time, there was this thriving force that was known as the internet. It's like, the tropical storm is coming and you just keep hearing about it, but you're kind of ignoring it. I was one of the little guys who's knocking on the big executives' doors, like, hey, like, we represent the internet, we're trying to get some things done. So that experience, and specifically within the urban space, like seeing how there was a bit of ignorance on one side, on one party side, where they just ignored like this dominance that's here now. And I saw how it basically like turned the company up, in a completely different direction. I never forget, like probably like 10 years later after that, being in a major meeting, programming meeting, they're like, it's all about digital first, linear second, and we felt like, yeah, like we accomplished something. And then that was the beginning of seeing a lot of, during that time, like print magazine was like the biggest thing that was the most respected in the space. And you saw a lot of the individuals who were really key players migrate from print magazine and just print in general and start creating their own blogs, etc., because they started to acknowledge what was going on in this space. We always looked at ourselves. When I say we, like myself and my partner Sway Calloway, we always looked at ourselves as being ambassadors of the culture. So it was ideally it was a thing where we wanted to start something. It's like, do we start a website, or do we go start a channel, etc. Again, like we took like 30 years into this plan, that what we have, and it's such a crowded field on as far as like the content side. We love it, but one of the biggest parts of our mission is education, like educating like these content creators how to properly go about their business, specifically like within this genre, because a lot of them they just don't know. Like I said, like I spent like probably like the first 6-7 years of my career just learning, and it wasn't like anybody was teaching me anything. Like I had to go out and absorb this information on my own. So we always said if we was in a position, of some type of prominence, that we would help other individuals so they can avoid similar like setbacks, basically. So education, and definitely data intelligence is a very big part of our offering right now at this point as well. So we're looking to get into, our goal is to get into this space. And I know that within like creating something like a fast channel and streaming, we're trying to be more closely aligned with the activity and the aggressiveness of like a social media, etc., versus just coming and doing a partnership. We want to create this where it's a 24/7 live model channel,
Right.
Specifically in this space. And that's something that we feel that's lacking. And it's even more important too, like we really specifically targeted this, like we're going during an election cycle, and I've worked on plenty of elections at MTV, Choose or Lose, and etc. And it's very important that people of this generation are educated as far as like the do's and the don'ts and the ongoings. And so we felt like that was part of our job. So we're looking to carve out something a little bit different within this space that did not really exist. And and add a little bit more spice to the program at the same time.
That's great. That's great. I appreciate that. What about you, David? What do you see as the big trend you really need to jump on these days?
I think Rahman brought up a good point just in terms of data. There's so much data out there, and industry data and your own data. But when you look at where the audience is, and we're talking about, you really have to parse the digital audience, because sometimes you'll read articles and they're putting in, let's say, YouTube in there, and they're putting in, let's say, social media. And for long form premium movies and TV, smart TVs is really where the audience is growing. And that's where you want, because you don't want your audience on mobile. That's a lot of short form content. You want that beautiful experience on a flat screen TV. And that's why it's good to see the competition with all the smart TV companies. Samsung TV Plus was a leader in terms of fast in their Samsung TV Plus platform, but you really see Vizio catching up. You see LG catching up. And that's really where I believe is a good growth area. And I'd like to see that further competition grow.
Well, guys, thank you. I'm getting the wrap up signal. So, I will wrap it up. I appreciate everyone's time, and everyone had amazing things to say. So thank you all for your input. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.